Hello, this is Fear Dragon, and welcome to Breaking Out, the show about North American StarCraft 2 players. Here on this show, we spend 1 week highlighting an up-and-coming North American player. Throughout the week, we find out more about the player's history, their personality, and their playstyle over the course of 6 short episodes. On Monday, we'll interview the player and find out more about them. Tuesday through Thursday, we'll watch a game from each of the various matchups casted by your very own Fear Dragon. On Friday, we'll check out a generally awesome game with some sick play, and on Saturday, we'll kick it back with the player and have some wacky fun with some randomly selected events like handicap ladder matches, karaoke, and dance contests. Each episode aims to be about 20 to 30 minutes long, so you can learn more about the North American StarCraft 2 scene without interrupting your busy WCS schedule. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Breaking Out, a show about North American players that you need to know about. Today, we're going to be taking a look at one of my favorite Protoss players. He hails from Canada and represents Clarity Gaming. He is akin to the TLO of Protoss. He is Clarity's SaroVati. How are you doing today, SaroVati?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's good to have you, man, and SaroVati, aka Brian. Brian is clearly his gamer tag. His mother actually lovingly named him SaroVati. Is going to be joining us for the Monday interview. And actually, just speaking of which, in case you don't know too much about the show, we do actually have a nice little schedule laid out here on the overlay. You can see Monday we do a nice little interview with the player. Tuesday we are going to be covering the player playing the Whatever versus Zerg matchup. Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to be doing Terran and Protoss. Friday, we're going to finish it off with an awesome game. These are all going to be, of course, casted by myself. And Saturday, we're just going to kind of rejoin together after all the games have been played out and have a little bit of fun. Whether that means that I'm going to be making SaroVati over here dance on his hands, or he's going to be doing karaoke, or I'm going to, fly him out to where I am and play paintball with me. We'll have to wait. We'll have to wait and see because I can't spoil it for Brian yet.
Oh, that's going to be really fun.
Oh, I'm sure you're going to be looking forward to it. But I mean, let's actually get into the actual interview. And why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you, and what are you doing on this show?
All right. So, as you've already mentioned, I'm SaroVati, Brian Zhao. I'm a Canadian Protoss player, currently a full-time student at the University of Alberta. I'm doing a Bachelor of Engineering, I don't even know if that's what it's called, in mining engineering, and I'm in the co-op program. So I'm really busy when it comes to school and work, but I try to play StarCraft whenever I can. So that's the short of it.
All right, cool. So, I mean, you said that you were actually a student, so do you play in the Collegiate Star League team?
Yes, I mean, our team did have a Collegiate Star League team last year. I don't think we did that well. I don't think we made playoffs, and if we did, we got knocked off really early. But currently, there's the CSL All-Stars Summer Tournament, I believe. I don't know the exact name, but it's going on. In the finals, I'll be playing against Suppy, so cheer me on that. Top
Definitely.
two.
That's going to be a hard matchup, man.
Yeah.
Suppy's a strong character.
He is.
All right, cool. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about your actual school work. Like, what do you actually major in? What are you hoping to be in the kind of like the future in that sense?
All right, so my school is actually really hectic. Like I said, I'm in mining engineering, and I'm in the co-op program. So what that means is, obviously, I'm probably going to do some mining in the future. That's the future-related part. But my school schedule is really, really busy. The school I go to is ranked either #1 or top 2 in the world for mining engineering. So we have a really busy schedule. So I'm on 7 classes and 6 labs. I'm at school from 8 a.m. to like 9 p.m. most days. So I try to fit in games whenever I can. And it's kind of my way to, relax, but also at the same time compete in something that I'm pretty passionate about. So, yeah.
Life of a student trying to play pro gaming, right?
It's tough.
Yeah, so what actually got you into StarCraft 2 or just esports in general? Is StarCraft 2 your first esport game, or did you partake in Brood War? Tell me the story behind that.
So I think StarCraft 2 would be the first esport game, quote unquote, that I've been a part of. I mean, I've been a gamer since I was really young. I mean, my parents they tell you that I was a gamer really young. I don't know if they'd agree with it, but uh, I played like Brood War. I played Brood War just for the custom games like Sunken Defense, all that stuff. I didn't play any game really seriously until it got to StarCraft 2. And what what kind of spurred that is throughout my youth, I've been playing sports a lot. So I've been on a basketball team, volleyball team, on the senior team, flown to nationals club, etc. And I love sports. I love competing against people. I think it's a really good experience. But the one thing in common with all the sports I played was the fact they were all team sports. So that has its own merits, but at the same time, even though it's really bad, there's always that one feeling sometimes after you lose a game where you're like, if only my teammates were better, which is not always the case. Like, I've been a bench player too for a lot of these teams, so like it's not the best feeling. But StarCraft 2 came up. It was coming out the week before school started for me, in high school, and I was like, well, I'm 15, or I'm 15. I just turned 15, I think, at the time. And I was like, it's too late for me to take a one-on-one sport like badminton, tennis, So I was like, what? StarCraft 2 came out. Brood War had a huge history of being competitive. If this has just come out, I'll be on an even playing field with everyone. So I just got into that to fuel my 1v1 competitive nature.
Fair enough. So no plans to go into League of Legends and blame all your teammates?
Well, the thing is, I played Dota. Like, I've played Dota, I think, longer than I played StarCraft 2. I played Dota 1 way back, like when I was like 12, 13. And I kept playing, the same with Dota 2. So I played with Dota 2 when me and my brother duo queue in Dota 2. We actually get the streamers who play. Like, we're playing at that MMR bracket. So, maybe in the future, but for right now, definitely only time for one game.
That's totally fair. So we're going to kind of move on to your team, actually, because you are on a pretty well-known team, actually. It's been getting more and more well-known, I have to say, as time goes on. It's Clarity Gaming. And why don't you just tell us your thoughts about Clarity Gaming and, inform people who may not be as familiar with it?
So where would I start? Clarity Gaming. Before Clarity Gaming, I was on Area 51. And that was kind of my first big team. But then once Clarity popped up and after Area 51 disbanded, it seemed like a good opportunity. A lot of people I knew were part of Clarity, and it had really solid management. So I jumped onto Clarity, and immediately, like, if you were back then, or if you were aware back then, we were one of those teams that sprung up and kept on releasing content, and everything looked promising. We had a team house, so that's kind of how Clarity started, and we're still going strong right now. There's been a few bumps if people have been paying attention, but we're definitely still going forward.
All right, cool. And at Clarity, who do you normally practice with? Like, who are your practice partners? Who is your favorite player to kind of hang out with? Like, do you have any really good friends on the team, or what?
Yeah, we're pretty close. I mean, I talk to a lot of the players. I'm actually team captain, so whenever they have a problem and they can't speak directly to the staff about it, they tell me, and then I relay it to the staff afterwards. So I have a pretty good relationship with a lot of the players. Most specifically, I think I've talked to Bales a lot. When he was streaming, I was, talking to him about strategy, teaching him a few things, and he went up from academy to our A team, and now he's moved on to, greater things. So he was probably one of the players that I talked a lot to, but I talked a lot to, like, all the players. So as for practice, I mean, everyone just practices with each other. So whatever you need help with at the time, that you just play with that race. So I think all of us practice together and talk and have a pretty good relationship.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, as you just said, you're team captain. So I mean, what kind of responsibilities does that entail beyond just kind of relaying extra things amongst players?
Yeah. So my role as captain, it's kind of iffy. No one really knows what the role of a captain in an esports team is. But for team leagues, I sometimes choose players. I lead players. I think about the strategy. For team leagues, I act as the liaison between some managers of the other teams, league coordinators, and I help organize things and stuff. And at the same time, I'm participating in all these talks with the senior staff in our organization and trying to push us forward to get new sponsors, enter new tournaments, etc. So I'm kind of like the in between the staff and the players. I'm like the guy who does both parts.
Wow, that's actually sounds pretty busy considering you're also, full-time student and everything else.
It it you know it might take a lot of time, but it's definitely worth it in the end. So I don't mind doing it.
So yeah, I mean, you say that it's worth it in the end. What exactly are you actually getting from being on Clarity? What are they doing for you as a player?
So the owner, Brandon, he actually, when he took me on, he was like, "Yeah, we'll get you to as many events as we can, and we'll help you with whatever you need, whether that be shirts, whether that be interviews, whether that be exposure, etc." And they've been doing a really good job about that. I mean, some of the previous teams promised me, flight gear, whatever, but it never happened. Clarity, on the other hand, although I haven't went to any events, I've had a total of, I think, 4 MLG tickets booked, like under my name, and then had to be canceled because my university midterms or whatever couldn't be moved, and that really sucks, like 4 times in a row. But I think the thought is what counts. I mean, he was willing to buy the tickets for me. He's willing to fly me there. He got me, Clarity shirts. He got me sponsor gear. So, like I couldn't ask for anything else, really. I'm pretty happy with what Clarity's provided me.
Yeah, I know there have been a lot of incidents, I should say, with
Yeah.
especially some of the semi-pro teams or even just kind of rising pro teams where things don't exactly work out exactly as promised. I'm sure that a lot of people are familiar with some of the examples, but let's kind of move on to a more positive note because, I mean, we're here. You're a StarCraft 2 player. You love StarCraft. I love StarCraft. Let's bond over it, man, okay? So we're going to do a hypothetical situation right now, okay?
All right.
So over at Blizzard headquarters, unfortunately, tragically, Dustin Browder is hit by a stray asteroid rock
God.
meteor, and sorry, not Dustin Browder, David Kim, and Dustin Browder
wow.
says, "Oh man, we need a replacement." And you know what? This kid Brian SaroVati, he's about to graduate. Should put him in charge of game balance.
All right.
What do you do, man? How is the game balance right now? What do you think about it?
Oh, to be honest, contrary to what all the people in our team chats hear, I think the game is pretty well balanced to the point where you can control your own destiny to a certain extent in the games played. I mean, sure, there might be imbalances in some places, but I honestly don't think that, it's too bad for one end. Maybe that's just because I'm Protoss. I'm sure a bunch of players are just going to say that, oh, he's just Protoss. That's what I
Don't
say.
say that. I'm a Protoss player too.
Well, it's just what people will say. But, I think at the moment, things are fine. Like I said, I tried to just, whenever I lose a game and I think there's imbalance, I'll just give it GG, and then I'll probably just rant to a friend about it. But for the most part, I know I can play better. I know the opponent can play better. So, if I really complained that much about balance, I'd probably just go random, just so apparently you can get the best of all 3 worlds. So I don't. I stick with Protoss. I don't really have time to do all that. So I stick with Protoss. I'm pretty happy about it. I don't mind losing games from time to time because, no one's going to win 100%. If you won 100%, the world would explode. I don't know what would happen. No, 100% of the time. So, I think balance is overall at a pretty fine state.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And so no big changes. I'm curious actually what your thoughts are because we're in a opportune position where.
Okay, well here I'm going to bring out the inner Protoss in myself. So, I said I didn't play any competitive Brood War, but there's a distinct difference. Like Storm in Brood War just does more damage and is bigger. Zealots in Brood War, whenever they got to a fight, they just started grunting like men. In StarCraft 2, if a Zealot gets hit by a Wargr, he's like, "We cannot hold."
I'm with you.
Well, you're like, "Oh my god." So, my units just seem to have gotten weaker, but, Protoss still wasn't doing that well in Brood War. I don't know what to say. Everything just seems even weaker than Brood War. What am I supposed to do now? Dragoons used to outrange Marines in a bunker. Come on. I got Stalkers now.
Oh, man.
But no, all joking aside, I think things are fine. I think mutas are very good. I think rather than Marine... Actually, here, I'll all my balance talk into one subject that doesn't involve the other races.
All right.
This is like
All right, let's
balance
hear it.
mining without bashing other races. So the reason why there's a bunch of things for the other races that are pretty strong against Protoss is more just because Protoss stalkers are a very questionable unit when it comes to anti-air and straight-up combat. So a lot of Protoss have struggles with mass muta transitions, and you need Phoenix, and that's because stalkers do not deal with Phoenix or muta very well. If you ask any Zerg player what's scarier, 10 blink stalkers or 20 marines with stim, they'll tell you 20 marines with stim, and one of them costs like a third of the price and no gas. So it's the same thing, and you can see it mostly in PvP, and that's actually where a lot of my strategies are based around. I mean, in PvP, not many people make stalkers past the early mid game, and they try to sacrifice them because in the end game army fight, they're the most useless, supply for the amount of damage they do in their utility. So that's why at the same token in PvT, they're really bad against MMM. So that's why one of my token builds that people have come to know me for is my Void Ray Colossus PvT, in which case I don't make any stalkers. I use Void Rays to counter Vikings in the air, and that way I don't have to build the stalker. So I don't know, it had some success. So I'm sure my grounds on saying the stalker aren't the best unit for straight up combat have some merit, but at the same token, there are pluses, like you can blink them around, they have good mobility. So there's some good, some bad, but that's how I sum up balance without bashing the other races. It's an ingenious way.
I think it was pretty well said, and actually, you kind of hinted at my next question, which is a little bit about your own thoughts on how you play in the matchup or in the various matchups of Protoss-related games, because you are a fantastic Protoss player, and as you said, the games that won my heart were actually played in the URTL Under 18 League, where I saw you do this beautiful thing where you go for Void Rays and you immediately transition out to Colossus after forcing out a ton of Marines, just using the Void Ray shields to, damage and dwindle the Marine count. And it's the funniest thing, the first time a Terran player sees that.
Yeah.
Because they just I need to make more Marines. I need to make as many Marines as possible. And then the Colossus come out and they're like, shit.
Yeah. It's a really cool, dynamic to the game when you pair Void Rays and Colossus together. Void Rays kill Vikings really well with good kiting. They kill Marines. With Guardian Shield and Colossus, it's actually a really strong combo because your entire army is ranged, so the Terran can't kite back, which is one of the big strengths of the MMM ball. So that styles really well. To answer the question about my play in general, I think I play around with a lot of ideas involving different builds that people don't really do. I rarely have the time to watch, Koreans play, so I don't copy the Koreans. I just, do whatever I think is best. So I think of an idea that's cool, I'll try to expand on it, and I'll play a few games with it. And you'll see that in all my matchups, I have some really unique things. Like, for example, I can give you an example. In PvZ, I used to do a really, really, really fast 6-gate. I don't know if you know about it, but that was way back in Wings of Liberty. I went Gate Nexus Forge, and people didn't know what that was, but I could survive against any early thing, and I would 6-gate him at like 650 or 640 off a 2-base, and I do a lot of damage. And one of the things I would have is 5 Zealots and a Sentry as my first warp, and people would be like, why would you have 5 Zealots and 1 Sentry? Like, 1 Force Field isn't going to do anything. But what I was thinking when I was designing the build is I wanted a super fast push, but at the same time, I wanted my Zealots to be super cost efficient. So if you think about the matchup PvZ, one of the main things that almost anyone will know is +1 Zealots 2-shot a Zergling, right? So what I thought was, if I have my Sentry and it has an instant attack animation, I can right-click every Zergling once that I see, and my Zealots will have +1 attack, and it'll hit at 650. So that's how I designed that build, and it worked really well. I beat Vibe and Cats with it in the Alienware Pro-Am tournament, where I ended up taking second next to Grubby, and that was pretty big for me. But that about sums up my play. I just think of something kind of cool and try going with it.
Dude, I mean, you're blowing my mind. You substituted +1 weapons with a Sentry. That is like the coolest thing I have actually heard this week. That is like the coolest thing I've heard this week.
Yeah. Gotta think of new ways to play.
Yeah, and actually, I really do want to like move on with the interview actually, but this is just too interesting to give up. Like, I mean, you are obviously a player that experiments a lot with different types of builds. You have like these crazy, crazy cool ideas, and I honestly do consider you like the closest thing to TLO that the
Yeah,
Protoss race does have, which hopefully you take
take it
as
as
a
a
huge
compliment. Yep.
compliment. Yeah. So I mean, what do you think that people and or players in general like need to do about this? Like I feel like not as many people are experimenting around with very specific builds, either for just to target down a specific player or even for a specific map. I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
It's probably because it takes a lot of time. Like if there's a best of seven coming up in, let's say, a week, it'll be
Mm-hmm.
really tough unless you grind out a lot of games with a practice partner to refine a build against every possible, thing your opponent can throw against you. So normally I have a few general builds that I do that are just different, and because I've practiced them more, maybe they're not as efficient as the standard metagame, but at the same time, it's like cheese. The guy who cheeses or the guy who does these unique builds will always feel more comfortable doing it than the guy receiving the cheese or defending against the push. So over the length of a 20-30 minute game when I'm doing something completely different than a normal person, I 100% will make better decisions than the other person based on how the game's going, just because I know where I kind of am in the game compared to them. They'll be like, he went like Void Ray and Colossus, like he can't have this and this. I'll just do like a timing attack, but my build's already prepared for it. So I think that's why people don't have 10 unique builds. I'm sure people can think of something kind of cool, but it's really hard to make it work properly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the same time, I also think it's just because a lot of people don't have all the time to put into something that potentially could flop. So like a pro gamer, they have the mechanics, they could have an idea, but if they invest a month into that for waiting for the next tournament and that idea flops, let's say it either gets nerfed without anyone knowing, or it just he can't cover all the holes in his play, then that entire month that isn't really useful, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the safer route to go with the metagame. But again, I'm a full-time student. I'm not playing this game 10 hours a day. I'm kind of playing for both stress relief and competition at the same time. So I kind of put my own spin on things. And when I play, I just, do whatever I feel like is going to work. And, for me, it's been working pretty well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you on that. I mean, it has been working pretty well because, as you mentioned, you've been able to take out some big names. I know that you even had the opportunity to play against some of the top Korean players. I mean, like some of these Korean players, Code S level players, and you're either taking games or even series off of them. So I have to ask, man, you're such a great player. You have like this innovative style that's so fun to watch. You're taking names off of big players. Why don't people know about you?
Well, I'm going to be completely honest. I probably do not market myself as well as, let's say an In Control or, you know, any other big name you can think of, a Dragon, you can get one that hits closer to home. I would love to market myself better, but as I'm pretty sure everyone can see, my webcam quality is pretty questionable. My internet is really bad, and my entire career I've spent playing on a laptop. I'm doing this call on a laptop right now, so like
Wow.
everything about it isn't going well. So like I can stream, but I'm sure people who have watched my stream have seen like it's like 378p. It's not even like a real like quality. It's like 378p plus or something. You know,
Oh man.
like I watched some of the VODs after, and I'm like, oh my god, I would not watch this. So it's kind of tough. I don't use Twitter as much as I probably should. I have been streaming a couple times in HD because my friend has actually let me stream on his internet and his setup, and he's got a really nice setup and stuff. So I'll definitely tweet out when I tweet on that, or when I stream on that, so people can watch me play without like breaking their eyes or like bashing themselves in the head 30 minutes in. So I'm probably not as known just because I can't. I don't stream as much. All my attempts to go to lands, bigger lands, have flopped. I've had midterms canceled and stuff. And overall, like right now for WCSNA, I haven't had a chance to play in any of the qualifiers. So I haven't even had a chance to qualify just because of finals and stuff. So it's pretty tough to get known in the scene without going to one of these big event tournaments. I mean, if you've been following the smaller scenes, I've won a lot of lands
Yeah.
in and around my area. I went to different provinces or states for those in the U.S. Um, and I won lands there. I've, been doing really well in the individual league for the CSL, but it's really hard for a player to get that much popularity unless they stream every day and they're consistently, putting themselves out there. And with my current setup and, hectic schedule, it's really tough for me to maintain a quality stream, producing quality content at the same time, having it regular without, getting interrupted by school and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest factors to me not being as popular as I potentially could be.
Yeah, I mean, all those things I can definitely understand. I feel like there are actually not just yourself, although you are a great example of it, like just really fantastic players that haven't had the marketability available. And hopefully, I'm hoping this is like the plug to myself during the middle of my own show. So go watch this show that you're already watching. Hopefully, this will actually also help your marketability, and people will start to realize like what a fantastic player they're missing out on. But just kind of moving on from that idea is, if you had the opportunity to go to become a full-time pro gamer, would you take it?
I think it would depend. I mean, I could have went to the Clarity team house and played. I know the owner of Clarity wanted me to multiple times, but I feel, how do I put this? In 20 or 30 years, I don't think that I could be a respectable force in the esports community to be making enough money to support my family well enough. I try to think of myself as, a more westernized type of person, but my parents are straight from the East. School's number one, studying's number one. You got to raise the family, and I don't think they're wrong, and it's definitely rubbed off on me. Like, I want to provide for my family in the future. I want to also pursue my hobbies and things I love, like StarCraft, but at the same time, I found, a balance where I can go to school, I can get my degree, and I can get a stable job. I can pay the bills, and I can also play the game that I love. So, I'm kind of happy where I am now. If I could go pro, maybe for a year, maybe for two, but I definitely want to, in the end, go back, finish my school, get my degree, and then go from there. Like, I definitely see myself involved with esports for the next, decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. I just don't think I'll be involved enough to be, making a living through esports. And I really want to provide the same level of support to my kids as my parents have to me. So.
Well, I think that's actually a great answer, and I would definitely support you actually finishing school as well. I know it can be done. This is like my motivational reinforcement to you, like that you can be a fantastic player. You already are a fantastic player while still in school, so hang in there, man. Suppy can do it.
Sure.
It can be done. But anyways, I'm going to wrap this up with one final question. It's sort of, where do you see yourself in 2 years ideally? And you kind of touched upon this, but I'm a little bit curious more on the details of it.
2 years, I'll still be at school. I think it'll be my 4th year. I'll probably finish a bunch of work terms, but school related aside, more esports, StarCraft related. I think in 2 years, if Clarity's still around, which I think they will be, I hope to still be with Clarity. I hope to actually go to some LAN events, major LAN events, whether it be a DreamHack, an IEM, a Red Bull, maybe if MLG comes back, an MLG, or even WCSNA. I really want to get to one of those big LAN events and see where I'm really at when I play against all the players, because I've definitely played a lot of the top NA players, either through online tournaments, ladder, practice partners. I've played Koreans and Europeans through, Zotacs, Playhems when they're still around, Zeke tournaments even. But I definitely want to test my mettle in a tournament setting where there's a lot on the line. There's pride, there's money, there's, a lot of people rooting for you and supporting you. And I think I could take that pressure well. I've been in a lot of pressure situations like that when it comes to real sports, whether it be athletics, academics too. So I think I can handle it well. And I just want to, show the vast majority of people that I can play with the best and hopefully gain a bigger following and, help the NA scene in general.
All right. Thank you so much, SaroVati, everyone. And we're having your webcam cut out at the exact perfect time because we are wrapping up the show. So why don't you go ahead and give any shout outs? Where can people find you? Either on your Twitch channel that you mentioned earlier. So when you do decide to stream and, 17p quality, people can still try and check you out and see the little hints of Marines.
So you can follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaroVati. You can watch like 16.4p. You might be able to make out a zealot or two. You can follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/csaravati. I think my Twitch is just Saravati. So you guys can type in both, give both pages some hits. You can like my team on Facebook, facebook.com. Just search up Clarity Gaming. Same thing, twitter.com/clarity_gaming, twitch.tv/clarity_gaming. They're a great organization. They've supported me really well. And, support us. We're NA. Everyone loves NA. This is a show about promoting NA, so hope you follow me. Hope you follow, this show as well. Thank you for having me on again. It's doing a really good job of promoting the NA players, and, hope everything turns out well.
Well, thank you so much, and as you said, hopefully people do enjoy this show, and you can go ahead and follow me on Twitch over at twitch.tv/FearDragon64, and my YouTube channel, which also will be releasing the videos for this in 1080p, beautiful, beautiful 1080p, over at youtube.com/FearDragon64. And of course, if you're too lazy for either of those, you can just follow me on Twitter and see when you see those Twitter updates. And I want to give a huge shout out also to Team Liquid for approving all the calendar events. So we are on the Team Liquid calendar. There's a good chance that you're actually tuning in from the Team Liquid calendar. But thank you, Brian, SaroVati, everyone. Please, please, please go ahead and check them out. And check out the rest of the videos that are going to be coming out for Breaking Out this week. We have a lot of shows, as we talked about earlier on in the show. We have Tuesday through Friday. We're just going to be casting some of these games, and SaroVati's already sent them to me. I know that this man has picked out some fantastic games for us, and I'm excited to see how creative his play can get. And with that being said, I think that's pretty much it. So have a wonderful night, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow.
See you.